What is up, beautiful people? On today's video, I'm going to explain exactly the process of subject to an agent and a seller live who don't have any equity in their property. Just so you guys know, subject to is the process where I buy the house and the deed is transferred into my name, but the mortgage stays in the seller's name. On this call, I go through the protections of how it would work for them and the risks and benefits of the entire transaction. I also am super honest with them and tell them exactly what I'm going to do with the property, which is wholesale it or wrap it to an end buyer. It's an incredibly educational conversation and highly, highly recommend it if you want to close more subject to deals and buy more houses. On top of that, there's a Q&A afterwards where the people watching the call have some questions that you can hear my answers to, so you are more informed on what's going on. I cannot wait for you guys to watch this conversation. It is gonna be a good one. Hey Denise, it's Jonah.
Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
I've been talking to some role of you, and that I, feel most comfortable with you. Would like you to explain the process.
Yeah, for sure. Can the seller hear me right now?
You're on.
And good morning, and what's your name? Indira, nice to meet you, Indira. So yeah, my name is Jonah. So this is something I do a ton of. It's called a sub-to transaction, right? And I'll explain what that is first, just make sure you understand. What would happen is basically when I buy this house, the mortgage will stay in place. The mortgage will stay in place. It will be in your name, but then the title would transfer over to me, right? So first off, do you have any questions about that part of the whole thing? I wanted to start there and let's start step by step and just see, does that make sense to you?
Yes, they can still be protected with pretty much stopping.
Right.
Is that
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. So basically, here's the main two protections. Number one is the amount of money I have to put in to buy the property, right? So number one is I'm going to be, with my offer, it'd be 15 grand to you and Denise. Number two is then I'd have to pay what I think by the time this closes will be 9 grand in arrears and back payments. So that, and then plus closing costs, that's already 28 grand, right? I'm not in the business of losing 28 grand. So that's already one protection right there, is that I'm not trying to lose 28 grand. The other protection is when we buy this property, we are going to give you the exact same protections that Chase Bank or any bank has when they're giving a loan on the property. We're turning you into a lender. So what would happen is when we buy we're going to mirror the existing loan that you have on the property, and we're going to list you as a lender on the property in second position. So what that means basically is, so let's say, Jonah gets abducted by aliens, even if he's like just nowhere to be found, how do I deal with that? What would happen is you would basically foreclose on the property. If I'm not making payments, it's really much easier to do than you would think. And those are the two main methods that I protect the seller, right? Is one, you have the right to foreclose, which is a much easier process than like suing me, for instance, in like a real estate transaction. And two, I'm putting in 28 grand, so it's less likely I'm gonna want to, lose that money, right? So those are the main two protections on it. Yeah, those are the main.
This one currently at 5.7. I mean, is there a chance that you would want to refinance without of this, or the sellers going to be the lender long term?
So I would definitely, if I am able to refinance at a lower rate, I will do that, right? Now, realize that this might take a while because a lender isn't going to lend me 100% of what it's worth, right? So if next year it did that, I would. The issue is they would only lend me probably 70 to 75% of whatever ends up being the appraisal value at that point. So with a loan like this, typically it'll take 3 to 5 years for the equity to grow enough where I'm able to refinance someone out. Interest rates will eventually go lower than 5.75%. It's going to eventually, right? So there's definitely a good possibility that would happen. But also I want the seller to be completely, what's your name again? I'm so sorry. I'm going to write it down because I completely forgot. Indira and Hasim. Sorry about that. So yeah, Indira and Hasim, I want you guys to be aware that it could be up to the length of the loan, right? It's unlikely because I'm probably gonna refinance to a lower rate, and I'm probably going to do something that would get you guys out before the end of the loan term. But I want you to be prepared for it lasting as long as it could possibly be, which I think there's like 28 years, right? It's unlikely I would just keep the same loan for 28 years, but I want you to be prepared for either way, right? So for the debt to income ratio, right? So there are two ways that is, right? What we're going to do is we're going to hire a servicing company, right? And when we hire the servicing company, there's going to be records that someone else is paying the mortgage, not you guys. So it's going to show me paying the mortgage, and probably, depending on the exit strategy, and I'll show you that, there'll also be either a lease in place or another agreement showing that payments are being made by another entity. And when that happens and you show that to a lender, it gets rid of that as a debt obligation. Kind of in the same way that if you turn this into a rental, the mortgage company would be like, oh, you're actually making money on this, you're not losing money. So we're actually not going to count this against you, we're going to count it for you. So it's never an issue. Are you planning on buying a home like right after this? Or I'm just curious. Okay. It's never an issue if it's more than a year until the next time you buy a home. If it's less than a year, then we just have to sometimes accelerate certain payments, but we get around that. But if it's not going to be for more than a year, then it won't be an issue because we'll use a servicing company. You can use to show someone else's. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any? I would pay for all of them. Just in the same way that like Chase doesn't pay your property taxes or your property insurance, right? That's all whoever owns that. No. So what we'll do, and when like we're in contract, I'll also have my TC come on and explain this if you guys want an explanation exactly of how the insurance transfers. But basically it transfers into the LLC name that I'm going to be buying this in, right? So no, that's part of the process is we're going to transfer the insurance into my name. And then we would list you as additional insured usually. But the primary insured will be my company. Sure, yeah. So if that part makes sense. Then there's the part that I want to talk to you guys about of like how I'm going or what I would do with the house, and I want to make sure you guys are okay with it. If you want to go with my offer versus, I know Denise was talking about another offer that's on the table. Just real quick, did everything we just talked about make sense in terms of how? Okay, cool. Okay, so here's the next part that I just want to make sure you guys are okay with, basically, because I'm super transparent about what I'm gonna do with the house, right? So like my initial offer to Denise was lower, and then I would be the one who ends up buying the house, keeping the house, making the mortgage payments, all of that type of stuff. So Denise was like, no, I think they'd be more interested in getting more money, even if you did a different exit strategy. So here's what I'm gonna do with the house, and I just want to make sure you're okay with it and you know everything about it, right? One possibility is I'm going to just resell it to another investor, one of my friends who does more midterm rentals, short-term rentals. in order to, get the most out of the property. That's going to be one possibility of what I would do, just because for me, the offer that I've got right now, or that I'm giving out, which is basically 26 grand to both of you, or like in total, that would be normally too expensive unless I resell it to another investor. That's one option. The other option I might do is I might resell it to another primary home buyer, someone who I've qualified with a residential mortgage loan officer, who kind of brings in a down payment and then makes the payments to me, and then I make payments on the mortgage, and I stay kind of in the middle handling the process. Those are the two things that I would do with this property, with how much I'd be paying you guys, just because those are the only two ways I see I could make money with it. So I just want to see if what I just said made sense, if you guys understand that, and yeah, if that's clear or not. No. The investor would still deal with it. It'd still be the same deal for you. Yeah. Correct. It doesn't change much on your guys' end, to be honest. It's just more like just being transparent, because I want you to know that like I probably wouldn't be the end buyer in this case. So I just wanted you guys to be kind of aware of that, more or less.
They would get the house back.
Mm-hmm. It's the same process as if I sell things, right? You guys are still going to be listed as lenders. You would go through the foreclosure process, which is the exact same thing that a bank would do, right? So that's kind of what would happen. And I'm going to set up a servicing company. They keep track of the payments. So anytime through this process, you can contact the servicing company. I think they'll give you a login, and you can see that the payments are being made right through the servicing company. So that's how you'll have what their point is to report everything. So that's what that company is for, and that's all. And we're gonna try to set it up all through escrow. This is kind of why usually these types of transactions are a month long to close, because we got to set up a lot of different things. But that's more or less the process, right? Typically what we do with these two exit strategies as well is generally we look for this investor or this first-time home buyer during the inspection period, right? And the reason for that is we want to see how much whether we're able to find one of these people. Like the investor, they're my friend, so that's going to be like really quick. For the second option, the first-time home buy, that can take a little bit, usually 2 to 3 weeks. And I wanted you guys to be aware of that as well, because this is how I can get someone the most amount of money, but also it means that there's a slight chance it doesn't close because I would be the end buyer, right? So that's something to consider as well, because I would be looking for either if one of my investor friends buys it, or that first-time home buyer within 2 to 3 weeks. So I also want that to be also explained. Ideally, it'd be 3 weeks to give the most amount of time for this part of it. So ideally 3 weeks. If it had to be less, like 2 to 2.5, we could make it work. It would just be ideal 3, right? So yeah, I just wanted to explain part as well so that you guys are clear. Probably one. We probably wouldn't need more than a month. Maybe an extra week, but probably, I don't think we need more than a month at the end, most likely. Yeah, there's no need for appraisal or anything. Basically, the only contingency would just be an inspection contingency, but really, during that inspection contingency, it's just finding the right person for this. I mean, I've done, just so you know a little bit about my experience, I've done 10 sub-2s already in my career. I think with my and if you include my partners, then we've done hundreds. So I'm pretty confident overall, but I did want to just explain all of this to you guys. So it's all clear, it's all transparent, and you guys feel comfortable with going with my offer versus any other offer on the table. I get it. It is a lot.
Family member,
Sure.
with my kids and all that. Yeah, so
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know. let me know. Yeah, tomorrow's totally fine. Let me know if you guys have any more questions, need any more help with anything at all. If there's any more questions about the process, and yeah, I would love to make it happen with you guys. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday if there are no more questions. Any questions about that? Did that make sense? There was a lot there. There's a ton there.
Yeah, it made sense, but I have some questions. Like, how much was the house? It was up for sale, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how much was it for? Was it listed for?
$375, something like that.
But they're in arrears and headed into foreclosure, or is that the situation?
They will eventually.
They will eventually. I know that part. So you're going to give them $26K that will cover the arrears, the closing costs, and that's just cash in their pocket. And then you're taking over, and then you will pull the mortgage current. And then what is the percentage rate they have on their mortgage?
Like 5.75 or something like that.
So it was higher than you would have really ideally liked.
It's too high. Like, I'm not even willing to buy it, but like, I think I could resell it. And that's what I was explaining to them.
So then you would take over, what is their mortgage payment? Do you know?
I forgot, $2,400, $2,450, something like that a month.
So explain to me how this is all set up. So then you would just continually be paying their mortgage every month through your company. Again, forgive me. I mean, I've literally been in this for a week and a half.
It's okay. No worries. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer some questions right now. Right? This is the whole education process of what I just did, right? And how I had that conversation, why I had that conversation, right? Like, most people don't do that. Most people aren't that honest about explaining what I'm going to do with the property. Because I could have locked this up yesterday, right? If I had just been like, oh yeah, I'm buying, right? But I want to explain every single process. I want to explain that like, it might not close because I'm not like the end buyer in this, right? There's a possibility. I'm confident, but I'm not like 100% confident. So I explained that as well. All of that stuff.
So then you would own the title of the house just for the $26K? How do you logistically, legally do that?
Same way you did buy any house. Just send it to a title company. They can do it.
Okay, get the title company to do it. But they have to agree that they're transferring the title to you, correct?
The sellers do.
Yeah. But you said, but their name actually still stays on the mortgage.
Correct.
And so they're just going to sit back. How does she end up making her money on the total cost of the house? Like, after you sell it, then do you pay her what she had it listed for?
No, I'm paying her now. She's about to get 15 grand.
But she was asking $375K. So what is her overall?
So the mortgage amount is $370K.
Oh, the mortgage amount is that much?
Yeah. Or something like that. It might be $340. I'm not 100% sure. I got to figure it out. I forgot. I wrote it down somewhere.
So she was trying to sell the house for the exact same amount as the mortgage? Okay, that's where I was lost. So
that's what makes these deals easy. It's like, what else are you going to do? Right? You're going to lose money over this. Or I can give you 15 grand.
Because she would have walked away with nothing and probably gone into foreclosure and probably hit the auction block or had to file bankruptcy and then go through this other whole drama.
Exactly.
So does this also save her credit? I mean, like, as far as like, if her name is still on
because I'm making on-time payments. Yeah.
Right. So that's actually a benefit to
I probably should have mentioned that. Also helps her credit with on-time payments. In fact, I'll text them right now.
Jonah, quick question. Were you offering if I heard it correctly, were you offering like a wrap?
That's with the first-time home buyer, yeah. I'm just telling her I'm a wrap.
Yep. Okay. Because I was just trying to decipher from the way that you were explaining. I'm like, okay, his first exit strategy is to say that you're not going to be the end buyer, which means you're going to wholesale it. And when you mentioned the second strategy, I was trying to make sure that I understood it, and it sounded to me like a wrap. So, okay, thank you.
Basically, yeah.
What were you saying too about if she tries to go and buy something else within under a year and then after a year? What was that whole
debt to income ratio? AKA, we need to make sure the bank knows that she's not paying $2,400 a month anymore. That's not actually coming out of her salary to pay for, right? How you do that is by showing them that there's a tenant or somebody else is making payments on the mortgage so that they don't count it against them when they're trying to qualify for something else.
And you were saying that usually it takes about a year for that to...
Yeah, there are ways to speed it up too. Like if you make a really big payment, you can do it 3 months. It's like 75% is off. After a year, it's 100% off.
But you end up wholesaling this house within a couple of weeks, then it's not going to really help her credit because she's not getting payments made if the house is sold to somebody else.
I wholesale it. I'm wholesaling it to someone to make the payments.
So the mortgage still stays in her name. So when does she actually end up getting out of this where her name is on the mortgage?
Whenever I refinance or sell the property.
So when you're wholesaling it, you're not actually selling somebody?
So I'm wholesaling the sub 2 deal to someone else, but everything about the deal stays the same. So when I wholesale, I'm wholesaling a sub 2 deal to someone else. So the sub 2 part of it stays the same until that person finances or sells it.
How do they make any money? I mean, like, what do
They're going to
you make
either,
by the
they
wholesale-
would have
the
to do
wholesale-
something like mid-term rental or short-term rental. And or if it's a first-time home buyer, they're not here to make money. They're here to just have a house. So it depends.
So they would assume the mortgage payments, the first-time home buyer,
Basically, it's not an assumption. It's not a formal assumption, but yeah,
but the mortgage still stays in her name.
correct.
But if it's a first-time
Where you
home
getting more?
buyer, then they're buying the, so it makes it a good deal for the first-time home buyer because they don't have to qualify to bank.
They have to qualify with me, and I'm
Right.
easier than a bank. I just
Exactly.
do what's necessarily legal, and then that's a whole nother lesson about how to do wraps.
So when would she actually ever get out from being in the mortgage after it's refinanced, which that could take 2, 3, or whatever years for the mortgage rates to.
Yeah, but why does she even want to be out of it? It doesn't really affect her at all, as long as the payments are being made.
True.
It doesn't really mean anything for her. It only means something if someone bankrupts.
So what are you doing? How are you making a profit through this whole situation?
I'm gonna make my money at the beginning when I wholesale it or sell it to an end buyer or a first-time home buyer. I'm gonna sell it for higher than what I'm paying for.
You're going to sell more for more than 375.
So is your main business mainly wholesaling? Do you buy more and hold
I would buy it
properties?
if it cash flowed as a long-term rental,
Oh, I see. As long as it cash flows. Okay.
but this one doesn't cash flow. I hate those. I usually lose money on those. It's much harder to make those work. If she had like a 2% interest rate, I'd just buy this,
Yeah,
right?
2% is definitely really low.
Yeah, because
so-
then their payments would probably be like 2,000 or 1,800, and the long-term rental rate is 2,200. So then I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna buy it. Like, fuck it, that's worth it to me.
So what's the highest interest rates that you'll go up to to buy and hold?
I don't usually go above 5%. The only reason why I'm doing this is because Pace has a program for it.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Yeah. So
What happens if that first time home buyer defaults on the mortgage?
then I take it back, and I might do something else with it. I might, if it now has equity, I might sell it. Because I'll keep myself in the middle. I'll make myself a third lender, probably. I just want to make sure it is 5.75.
So the first time home buyer is not going to get the title of the house. You still have the title of the house.
No, they will have the tax, but then I can foreclose on them.
And the way you would make money, right, on that first time home buyer is you would just charge them a higher rate.
Slightly higher rate, probably more of a down payment, slightly higher price.
And that's how you make money on a wrap. It's like, got it.
Yep.
Why is it called a wrap? Is it an acronym?
No, there's not really necessarily a reason. It's just the way you think about it. We have original loan, and then we take this loan and wrap it around. That's the idea. But it's not, it's just the name for it. You
I
don't
think
have
of
to
I think of like a sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to think about it too much.
So
Cool.
the first homeowner, you would charge them more than the 5% interest.
Maybe. I might not be able to get more. Her interest rate's already really high. Cool. Well, guys, appreciate you guys coming on. And
Yeah, I know you want to go on your
Alright.
hike and get out of here, but just as a relative general question, say somebody has a, $3 million house, $3 million house, and they owe, 1.4 on it, and then they get into back payments, foreclosure situations, et cetera, et cetera. How would you do that kind of deal when they still have so much equity in the house? You wouldn't probably.
you'd have to either do seller financing, just get it at a lower price.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Jenna.
Cool.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys. I will.
Oh, one more question.
Okay.
One more question.
Okay.
So I want you to be my closer. What's the next steps? Do we sign like a JV agreement? How do we, how do we split profits, and how does that work?
What do you mean? Like for the leads we did in this challenge?
Meaning like after I'm finished calling more leads and basically having you close it, and then I would basically want to sign up for PropStream, sign up for Simpleton, and basically start generating my own leads. But I want you to be my closer. Like how do we JV, or how does that work?
Send me a WhatsApp message. Probably what we
Okay.
would do, it depends on how much I'm involved versus not being. If I'm closing, probably I'm pretty involved. We'd probably split it 50-50.
Okay.
And yeah, we just have to, we'll talk about it. Just send me a
Okay.
message because I'd have to think about it too, about like logistically how it would work. Because I have my own business also, right?
Mhm.
So I don't want to, it's one thing when it's in a challenge that I committed to. I want to make sure I have time for everyone, right?
Mhm.
But just send me a message if anyone's interested in continuing this and paying for your own leads and paying for your own software and then just sending them to me.
Uh-huh.
I'd be interested in that
Okay.
when it's not on my dime. So
And then the
Yeah.
WhatsApp number you have in the group is basically your number
mhm,
to communicate with you. Okay, I'll save that.
correct. Yeah,
What softwares do we need?
these ones we've been using. So you'd have to get your own SimplSend account. You'd have to get your own prop stream probably, and you'd have to just qualify the leads.
Prop Stream is the other one.
Yeah, you probably just need prop stream and SimplSend.
Okay.
Just so you know, like to set up a SimplSend account, it takes a little while. Usually is like a 2-week to 4-week process because you have to get because carriers are really shitty nowadays, but you have to get approved and stuff. So just be aware of that. Okay. Any other questions?
No, go enjoy your Sunday.
Okay.
That's it.
Well,
Thanks,
I love
Jonah.
it. Help people. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, bye.
If you have any questions about why I did that call or what was going on, comment below and I'll answer you directly. If you want more calls just like this, subscribe, click that like button so the algorithm is always sending you the latest video. See ya next time.